Welcome in, everybody, to another edition of Sad Times. I'm your host, Kevin. Sad Times, for those of you who have not listened, is a podcast in which each week we bring on a guest who tells some stories about times they were upset, sad, angry, in any ways just overwhelmed, emotional, how they reacted to it, how those around them that love them reacted to it, because I believe, and we at Sad Times believe, that we all go through stuff like this, and the hope is that the more that we talk about it, not only will it become more normalized to talk about the difficulties, but also it will make somebody who may be listening right now feel a little bit less alone. And the hope is that anyone who's dealing with anxiety, depression, any number of struggles, to know that they are not alone in the world, that is a huge step forward. So that's what Sad Times is. We thank you for joining us. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Sad Times wherever you do get the podcast. And also, if you would like to be a guest, we are always taking new submissions. You can email us at sadtimeskc@gmail.com. That's sadtimesk as in king, c as in cat, @gmail.com. And we will let you know how it works and go from there. We look forward to hearing from you. Before we get to our guests this week, let's get to this week's made-up sponsor. That sponsor is acronyms. And I have the ad copy here. The ad copy is ICBTIARAOAPATPAGTLTU. Take that for what you will. Thank you, acronyms. All right, let's get to our guest. You may know him from the podcasting world. His name is Jay from the excellent podcast Project Skeptic. Jay, what's going on, man?
Hey, how's everybody doing today?
I'm doing all right. I've got some cryptographers on those acronyms to see what the hell they're trying to say. I hope it's not like what they said about 80s metal records, where if you play it backwards, it's just Satan telling us to kill ourselves.
I was trying to keep up with it, and I lost you after the fourth letter. So.
That's fair. Well, those motherfuckers need to get a little more creative, is what I'm saying. Now, Jay, you and I have never met, but you and I have one horrible thing in common, and that we both know Brent. So you have been kind enough to reach out because you wanted to share some of your stories on the show, and I really, really appreciate it, and I look forward to having that discussion with you. How's your day going today?
Well, my day was going pretty well for the first part, and then everything caught fire. In the last hour or so of work today, everything just kind of went up in flames. It was like that "I'm fine," meme where the
the
guy's
dog is sitting there.
Yeah.
Now they're not literal flames, right?
No,
you don't have
not
any
yet.
smoke inhalation problems. Okay.
No, maybe it'll be something I have to deal with in the morning, but right now we're okay.
All right. Well, I really hope that dealing with it is easier than you expect. Well, appreciate you coming on, Jay, and you are talking to us. I'm in Chicago, the Chicago area. You are talking to us in Pennsylvania, right?
Yes, rainy Pennsylvania.
I believe is that like a William Penn thing? Rainy, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that was on the inside of the Liberty Bell. I don't know if you knew that, but yeah,
see, I didn't look
on
under. I didn't.
Yeah.
Apparently, NPR cracked the Liberty Bell, and I'm very upset about it. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so you're born and raised. You're still in PA. Tell us about your family, like growing up. Did you have siblings?
Yeah, I'm the youngest of four. So I was I have an older brother, an older sister, and then another brother that's pretty close to me. He's only about 2 years apart, but me and my oldest brother are 14 or 15 years apart, something like that. Yeah. Okay,
so you're by far the youngest, at least from your oldest sibling. I know some other people who are kind of the younger. I'm the youngest sibling, but there's only 3.5 years between myself and my sister, who is still not a doctor. But I see that, I see other people who are very young. Now, did you know your grandparents as well?
Well, that's what's strange about it. Like my older siblings, they remember, they have memories of my grandparents. But for me, I've met my grandfather on my father's side. He obviously passed away when I was young. But my grandmother lived to be 90 some years old, and she was the only one on the grandparents' side that I actually knew and grew up with. So,
okay, wow, 90 something. That's a good run.
Yeah.
And how about, so your grandfather, you said, passed away, but you didn't really know him?
Well, I was young at the time. I remember him. I remember going over there. They lived right next door, as a matter of fact. And so I'd see him daily. But like I said, I was real young when he passed away. I remember his workshop and him being around and things like that. It was just, I was really, really young at the time.
Okay. And how did he pass away?
So I don't remember the year. I think I said it was in 90, somewhere around there. So I'd have been somewhere around 6 years old. And it was April. I do remember that. It was in the springtime. And I had come home from school, and I was rushed out of the house and up to a neighbor's house. And later to find out that my grandfather was walking between our houses up to the garden that we had at the top of the property, and he had a massive heart attack in the yard. And by the time my mother had found him, he was already deceased. So whenever I got home at the time, I was just rushed away, and all the ambulances and everybody was already there. And yeah, it was a strange feeling to have, being that young, not really knowing the exact details, but I knew something was wrong.
Yeah, of course. And your mom, you said, found him. And this was her father-in-law?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you recall how they explained it to you, or is that kind of lost to memory?
Yeah, it's kind of lost to me as who told me or how they described it. I know when we went to my neighbors, she kind of gave us like details. It was me and my other brother, who's only like I said, 2 years older than me. So we went up to the neighbors, and I think she kind of described what was happening, but not in like the detail of what was actually happening, trying to calm us to, not make us feel like something major had happened, which it had, but kind of console us and, give us a little bit of the details, but not all of the details.
Yeah, it seems to me that's one of the many stages of the eternal challenge of being a parent is, you do not want to lie to your child, but it's like you said you're about 5 or 6, right? This 5 or 6-year-old Jay is not going to know exactly what this means, maybe. So, but you don't want to lie to him, right? So that's an interesting and very difficult line that I think pretty much all parents have to walk.
Yeah, we've had to do that. We have children of our own, and we've had to do that over the course of the years. Explain what has happened to so and so, or a family member, or something like that to my children already. So you don't, like you said, you don't want to lie to them, but you kind of want to make sure they know what happened, so they know the grand scheme of life, I guess. You know what I mean?
For sure. Oh yeah. Yeah. Hey, listen, I have no children. My hat's off to anybody who does, and, works every day to help or to do their best to raise kids. And, I don't think I'm up for the challenge. So good, more power to you, my friend. So not only your grandfather, a couple years later, there was another death in your family, right?
Yes. When I was in like the second grade or so, I had an uncle pass away on my birthday. So it was a very fond memory because it was my birthday. And my Uncle Fred was he kind of not held the family together, but like I said, all of our big family functions took place at their house. So we had pig roasts all summer, or birthday parties, or anything like that. They had this great big piece of property where we could go and run and play with the neighbors and down there. And so he was always around. It was my father's sister's husband. So they were always around. And I didn't know a whole lot of details when he got sick. So I found out later on that he had stage 4 lung cancer, and he had got real sick. And I knew that we weren't seeing him as much, but I didn't know the details still. I was still young. I was probably 8 or so at this time.
Right.
And yeah, I got my mother had came and got me from school that day. It was a rainy March day for some reason, Pennsylvania. So she had got us, and we had gone somewhere. We obviously didn't go to the hospital or go, anything like that. I think we went to my grandmother's house, where everybody kind of was, the whole, localized family was there. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that was a tough one for me because, like I said, he was always around. He was a jokester. He was outgoing. He was a fun person to be around. From even from what I remember, 30 some years ago, he was just a fun person to be around. So when he had passed away, that was a big. I don't know. It was very emotional for me. One, because it was my birthday when I was a kid. Yeah. And two, that like this uncle that we had that was the life of the family is now gone.
And yeah, it sounds like in a lot of ways the linchpin, at least around larger family get-togethers.
Yes, like I said, we were always down there. I mean, they lived close. I mean, it's not like they lived an hour away. They lived 5 minutes from us, so we were always down and around there.
Okay. Now, you had said that you are the youngest of 4, and your oldest brother is how much older than you? 15, 18 years?
Yeah, I think he's 50. I think he's 54, 53, something like that. So maybe 14 years older than me.
All right. And so because you were born so late, it sounds like not, one, there's that's a, there's a big gap between siblings, but also not only your grandparents, but your whole extended family was pretty old. It seemed that they were older than maybe, say, for me, when I was born, when my parents were in their early 30s, and my sister was only 3.5 years older than me.
Yeah, my whole extended family were older at the time that I can even remember them being around. I had an uncle Garvey and Aunt Mary Teresa, and they were always in my mindset. Everybody was always way older than like my parents. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Even though they might have been about the same age.
They could have been. I know my grandmother's siblings were all. I've always felt like they were always older, like older than she was. And it was strange to be around, I guess, the extended family, because I was obviously like one of the youngest in the family.
Mm-hmm. Did the cousins pick on you because of that?
No, I held my own for the most part. We ended up. I'm not the youngest of my direct family, like cousins wise. After a couple years, there had been another 2 cousins that were younger than me. But yeah, we grew up. We grew up rough, and we were tough kids, you know what I mean? And yeah. we didn't take a lot of crap from each other. So
yeah, and then you're running around, like you said, your uncle's property, and I'm sure there's some scuffles and skin knees and all that good stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So with that, then you go, as is apparent, you grew older. You're on this podcast today, and when you were in high school, I don't know if Pennsylvania is anything like Illinois, but one of the things that when I was growing up, one of the big things was baseball, Little League, all that good stuff. Were you involved in sports and stuff as you were in high school and everything?
Yeah, growing up, it was the typical, Little League baseball all summer long. We played so much baseball when we were kids. I mean, we had a big piece of property. Our neighbors had some big piece of property, so we were always, down there hitting a ball or throwing or something like that. So it was a big thing for us growing up was playing baseball. Yeah.
Did you? Who was your favorite player?
I was a big Ken Griffey Jr. fan whenever I was probably real young, and then it got into the Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, home run race to 70, and I kind of liked both of those guys at the time. But yeah, I liked Ken Griffey Jr. when I was growing up when I was a little kid.
Well, I mean, there's not much you could say bad about Ken Griffey Jr. And what position did you play in baseball?
So I played center field. I was always fast when I was a child. Obviously, I'm not that fast now, but when I was a child, I was quick and I could move. So I was always outfield, shagging balls in the outfield.
Yeah, I mean, as a center fielder, again, can't get much better, at least in our generation, than good old Ken Griffey Jr., which I will put in a quick plug for Ken Griffey Jr. Baseball on Super Nintendo as the greatest sports game ever. Thank you. But even outside of baseball, one of the big things that I just obsessively looked forward to was getting my driver's license. And it's funny because now I look back and I see the size of my small town and I could have walked most places. But at that time, I didn't understand that. But that was something that I look forward to. Was that something that you were really excited about as well?
Yeah, definitely. You did that coming of age, 16, getting your driver's license. We rode bikes around our little town pretty much everywhere across the town. So it wasn't a transportation thing. It was just like, I'm 16 now. I can, get a job. I can get a car. I can go wherever I want now.
Yeah, that's a very good way to put it, man. It's like a transition to say, hey, now I'm closer to this magical adulthood that everybody tells me about, where I can make my own decisions, right?
Yeah.
So, tell us about when you had to get your permit. Did you have to have a physical?
Yeah. So in Pennsylvania, they make you go, just like with sports, I guess they have to have a physical to make sure that you're not, in any disability of driving or, have any kind of chronic disease that's going to, inhibit you from driving, just like falling asleep at the wheel or something like that. So they run a gambit of different things. And, they definitely, have something like that for our driving tests.
Okay, cool. I don't recall. I don't believe I had a physical for my driving test. But when you were around this age, was there anything that they found in the physical?
Yeah, so that starts the more craziness part of my life, I guess. Mm-hmm. So we went in for the physical. Same doctor. I actually still have the same doctor right now. As
really?
I did when I was 6. Yeah, same
that's
exact
awesome.
Doctor. So we go into the physical. They do the normal physical things, check your lungs and your arms and your knees and your reflexes. And then they ask you if you have any questions or any concerns. And I said, I've been having these migraines where they're painful. They're not headaches. I have to sit in a dark room migraines or I'll get physically ill.
Oh, how old were you when those started?
I was about 15 or so.
God, what did you think the first time that came upon you? I would think my world was ending.
So it wasn't an instant one day I got a migraine thing.
Okay.
It was a progressively these migraines are getting worse. And at this point, this is what they are. This is how they are affecting me directly.
Okay. Now,
was it?
Oh, sorry. Oh, no. You're fine. Was it progressive in such a way that it kind of snuck up on you, or were you able to kind of be like, well, this is definitely worse than the last time, that type of thing?
Yeah. I mean, it was probably over a good, couple months or so where I was like, man, this headache is just bothering me and it won't go away. And it was like 2 days I'd have this headache and I'm like, okay, take some more Tylenol or whatever. And then, you keep moving and keep being active. And then to the point where one of them would eventually hit you and, you were debilitated, you couldn't do anything with this migraine, but lay with pressure on your eye, into a pillow somewhere. So you didn't have to hear or see anything just to try to, cope with the pain of it.
I just, I've heard very similar stories from a number of people who have struggled with that type of headache and pain, and I just cannot imagine how just the one time, but then to think, okay, I just had that. Oh, you know what? I'm going to have that again at some point. That has got to be really off-putting, disorienting, any other thing. So, wow. I mean, the fact that you could, again, I'm a pretty weak motherfucker, and if I get even a little bit of a headache, I buy stock in ibuprofen.
Yeah, it was definitely man, some days were just killer. I mean, I couldn't wait to get home from school and lay in my cool basement and just cuddle or in a fetal position just to try to, alleviate some kind of pain.
Yeah. And thus implying that you had this pain and you sat through class with that in the bright classroom.
Oh yeah. And it's not only the pain, but like you said, it's also disorienting. At one point, it's so much pain behind my eye that it would, I'd walk with one eye closed around school just because it hurts so bad. And you just try to get to 2:30 every day, and you go home, ride the bus home, and lay down.
Man, well, you're tougher than I am. So you're at your physical. And you tell them that you've been having these bad headaches and they've kind of getting progressively worse. What did your doctor say?
So, doing the doctor thing, he thought the best course of action would be to have a look, CAT scan, some kind of scan to be able to see what's actually going on in there. So I get sent for a CAT scan. A couple days pass with no answers or, nothing from it. And then we get another appointment set up and to talk about it. So we go in and I'm thinking, no, he's just going to be like, okay, here's your physical signed and you're good. Well, they had found something on the CAT scan and he recommended that we have an MRI done to
found something. Like, did he specify what that quote unquote something was?
Now in the CAT scan, they couldn't pinpoint exactly what it was. It could have been a fatty abscess. It could have been anything. It could have been a tumor. It could have been an aneurysm. It could have been anything at this point.
God, that's got to be scary.
a little bit.
Yeah, that would scare the fuck out of me. Okay. So how soon after did you get the MRI? I would hope soon.
Yeah. So the MRI was within, a week or two of that appointment.
Okay.
And then we did the same process again. We went in, and then that's when he had told us that, look, this is what's going on. They found this arterial venous malformation.
Whoa. Say that again.
Arterial venous malformation.
Okay. I think that's what the acronym ad was trying to tell us. So what? Arterial venous malformation?
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you for my lame joke. Tell us what that is. I've never heard of that.
So essentially what it is your arteries and parts of your veins. And most of the cases that I've ever seen or read about were always in your brain. And they're tangled. Like your veins and your part of your arteries are tangled into like a knot of hair where you try to brush it out and it just wouldn't brush out.
Ooh. Okay. And that, pardon me, that is what the very simple way to put it. That is what was causing these horrible headaches.
Yes. That is the cause of all the headaches because of when it would swell due to blood pressure or too much caffeine or anything like that, it would actually put pressure on my brain.
Oh my God. So you're saying that you couldn't say, I don't know, drink two liters of Surge just to get a crazy, 14-year-old night going? We used to love Surge. Okay. No. Okay. All right. So you find this out. What is your reaction? What did they say that they needed to do to treat it?
So your initial reaction is, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
It's something in my brain. I mean, it has to be that serious. When you're a kid, it's your heart and your brain. That's what happens. When people die, it's either their heart or their brain. So I guess, it was, you going forward after that. whenever we had the MRI and they pinpointed what it was, they said, hey, we're going to have to have an angiogram done. So we're still going through the testing at this point. They're feeding me painkillers for the actual migraines.
Okay. What kind of painkillers?
Darvocets.
Are those still around?
No.
Okay.
They've definitely been discontinued.
Are those, forgive my ignorance, it's just because I'm not related to a doctor. Are those like strong pain pills?
Yeah, they are the pre kind of Percocet, Vicodin, like in that kind of range.
Gotcha. Okay. So as we've established, you were a big baseball player. It sounds like you were very active. Did you play any other sports?
Yes, I wrestled. Whenever I got to 7th grade, we had a wrestling team for our junior high, and I wasn't a very good basketball player, but I like to stay active. So a friend of mine had suggested that I go out for the wrestling team. So, and that was it for the next 4 years. That's what I did in the winters.
Okay, wow. And so how did all of this, the diagnosis, how they're going to treat it, et cetera, affect, all of your sports playing, being active, just being a normal, for lack of a better term, a normal teenager?
Yes. So we found out probably February or something like that of 2000 that's what was going on. So as going forward with all the testing and everything, there was no sports, there was no baseball that summer. There was no anything physical. Even myself, I thought, I don't want to just bump it. And what ifs? That's what it was. It was a handful of what ifs.
Yeah. And well, let's just take baseball just because I love baseball. And I mean, just what if you got hit in the head, even if you have a helmet on with a pitch or whatever?
Well, that was the thing. They didn't know. They didn't know if I did get hit, if there would be a reaction or swelling or anything just like a concussion. Would that swell with it being on my brain? Would it swell and cause issues? Which it probably would have. So we had to be as precautious as we could.
Yeah, of course. Now, listen, in the scheme of things, there are a lot of challenges in life. So I don't mean to belittle like not being able to play sports, but when you're a teenager and that's what you do like all the time, after school I have this practice or that practice, or I go and like I said, play, like you said, rather play with your cousins and play baseball or with the neighbors, etc. It's got to be a pretty jarring thing to just be told that has to stop now.
Yeah, it was after the MRI. That was pretty much it. Like, we found this, we know what it is. We're scratching all type of, don't be running. You know what I mean? It's don't do anything.
How did you take that?
That was the worst. I think that was the worst part of all of it. Right. From riding bikes, playing baseball, being outside, riding four-wheelers, riding dirt bikes, just being out and about and being active, to nothing. And that was a shock, and everything that I grew up doing just stops at 15. Wow.
It again, I'll use the word disorienting again. Not only disoriented, but it's just got to be just take the wind out of your sails, while also worrying about, I might die because there's something wrong with my brain and or heart, as you were saying.
Yeah, I don't know. Day to day, I didn't know if one of those headaches were going to be, the big one, the big headache where this thing bursts in my head because there's too much pressure on it.
Did you, so going back to the caffeine thing, were you drinking like a lot of soda, or were you not really a caffeine kid?
Not that I can say that was my, primary diet, but I was probably a normal, my parents would limit obviously what caffeine we took in. So that wasn't too hard of an adjustment to totally cut that out. No. That wasn't, I don't think that difficult.
Speaking of caffeine kids, I prefer them to garbage pail kids, but that's just me. Okay, so you're 15. February. You said February of 2000. It's about when you were diagnosed with this. They put you on the painkillers. What were the next steps for you?
So we went through all the testing and through all the scans, and then we had to wait. So we had to wait till August, or the end of July, August.
Okay.
So it wasn't something that they got taken care of right away. We did a lot of scans, did a lot of CAT scans or MRIs, stuff like that. Then August, end of July, August comes around. I have to go to UPMC. Well, it wasn't UPMC at the time, but Children's Hospital in Pittsburgh.
Oh, okay.
We went out there. We stayed at Ronald McDonald House out there, right beside the hospital.
If I may, real fast, Ronald McDonald houses are amazing.
Yeah, they are.
My sister had a difficult pregnancy, and my nephew was born very premature, and he had to be in the NICU for a long time. And they were able to stay for free at this Ronald McDonald House right next door, and it was like there's pantries full of food and all sorts of great stuff. Was that your experience as well?
Yeah, they were great. I mean, it was just like a hotel room right beside where we were, and it had everything. TVs and computers that you could surf the internet on, and yeah, they were. It was a great place for because at this point it was just me and my mom out there.
Yeah,
for the surgery.
God, and that's I was thinking that's got to be so hard on your parents too. With not only are you going through this uncertainty, but they're seeing their youngest child go through it too.
Yeah, and my dad would stay home, and I had my other brother, and my sister now is my sister's older, and she was out married, had a child at this time, but my other brother was still in high school, so one of them had to stay, and one of them had to come with me. So it was
God, that's difficult. Like really difficult to not put too fine a point on it. So you go through all this test, and then you guys are at the Children's Hospital in Pittsburgh where you're having the surgery, and you're staying at the Ronald McDonald House. What were the next steps then?
During I think it was a Friday, something along those lines, we went into the hospital. They did another angiogram. That's where they cut your artery, your vein down like by your leg, and put a tube up into your brain, and then they pump all this dye into your brain to like pinpoint exactly everything in your brain. I mean, they can look in like a 3D model, and this is 2000, so I mean, it's pretty incredible tech for 23 years ago.
Yeah, thank God Y2K didn't get that. So, what did that feel like?
So, you ever been punched in the face really hard?
By anybody besides Brent? No.
Or hit with something really hard where it's jarring and your eyes go black? And
I don't believe that I'm lucky enough. I'll knock on wood as not wood. I don't believe I have, so I'm lucky enough to say that I haven't.
So your eyes go black, and then the whole seeing stars thing, that's exactly how this was. I mean,
Wow.
My eyes went completely black, and then I started seeing all the stars, and then on all the monitors was this, these pictures of my brain. It was pretty wild.
Wow. That does not. None of this sounds pleasant or fun, Jay.
No.
Okay, so as you're leading up to the surgery, you were on painkillers. Did they put you on any other medication as you came closer to the surgery?
Yeah, we were, or I had to take some anti-seizure medicine. They had these anti-seizure medicine just for a precaution because, they wanted to make sure that if anything happens, like my body wouldn't react in that type of way. So I had these little, Tic Tac, maybe smaller than a Tic Tac, maybe a BB sized pills that I was taking. And I had to take like 30 of them a day.
30? 30 of them?
Yeah, it was like 30, something around there. I know I had to take like handfuls of them they gave me this like great big, like, it looked like a mason jar. Like it was huge. There were so many of these things in there, and it was like a couple days leading up to the actual surgery that I had to take them all.
Wow. Jeez. Okay, so you're still on the painkillers. So you have the procedure. Is there anything that? Well, obviously you're probably out for that. Do you know what they specifically did in the procedure?
So I had to be fully awake for the whole procedure.
Jesus. Well, probably because they needed to. I'm probably going to get this wrong. That they need to see the way your brain was reacting to things.
Yeah, it's kind of like the playing the violin while you're having brain surgery thing. You know, they have to make sure that your brain is still, functioning and cognitive while this was going on. So yeah, okay. I had to be awake.
Oh wow. But did they quote unquote float you? No, you're just awake and you just can't feel it, but you're very aware that something is going on. Do you feel like a lot of pressure and everything? Yeah,
they had put me in a halo, so I don't know if you know what a halo is. They do it for people that have like really bad neck injuries and spinal injuries. So what they did essentially is they bolted this thing to the front of my forehead and the back of my head with like a local anesthetic. They came in, rubbed this local anesthetic on my forehead and the back of my head. And then they busted out the fancy DeWalt drill.
DeWalt?
DeWalt.
The Children's Hospital can do better than a DeWalt's a fine product. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But, okay, so they drilled into your head with a DeWalt drill, a local anesthetic.
Like lag bolts of some sort into my skull. I still remember that I could smell like the bone burning as they were drilling into my head.
Jesus Christ. I'm happy to report that currently Brent has pulled up an image search of these things, and it's just, I'm looking at the screen and I just see so many of these. And Brent, stop. Okay. Okay. So that is in. What's next?
So they wheel me off to this room. It looks like an alien abduction room. It's all like sanitized stainless steel, great big white lights. And in the center of this room is a sphere, probably, I don't know, 10 foot in diameter, maybe a little bit bigger. Looks like the Epcot Center.
Ooh. Okay. Sorry, I got really excited about that. I don't know why.
I had to lay on my stomach, and they kind of like conveyored me into this thing with just my head inside of it. And then they took the halo and bolted it to this contraption that I was just like in like head first.
Now, I'm trying to picture this. So you had an MRI earlier, obviously. Now, was this as weird and disorienting as an MRI feels? Or like how disoriented was it to have your head in that thing? Could you see anything?
Yeah, it was kind of dark. There wasn't a whole lot on the actual inside of it. The MRIs never really bothered me. I don't get claustrophobic, and I kind of just cover up and lay there during MRIs. I don't know. I guess after you have 15 MRIs, they kind of become null.
Yeah, I'd say so. All right, so you're in there. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm in there, and I'm all bolted in, and there's no sound, there's no vibration, there's no nothing. There's a little bit of like air moving and some stuff kind of turning on, it feels like, and the procedure is like a couple minutes, maybe 10, 15 minutes, and it was called Gamma Knife. It was pinpointed radiation to take care of this set of tangled veins that were, sitting on my brain.
So the actual procedure, only the actual quote unquote fixing of the problem, once all of this stuff is done, you said took about 10 to 15 minutes?
Yes, from what I remember. I mean, it's been a long time ago, and the actual surgery, or the whole thing through the headaches and the MRIs and stuff, it did affect my memory a little bit.
Of course.
So there's some fuzzy things, even pre-surgery. There's still a lot of things that people bring up to me, and I'm like, I have no memory of that. So I just chalk that up to the whole experience of that surgery and everything I went through whenever that all went down.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, I was never much of a gamer, even though I did mentioned King Griffey Jr. baseball earlier. Was Gamma Knife a character on Mortal Kombat?
Yeah, that was the second to last guy.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
I wasn't very good. I never got that far. Okay, so you're done with this. Now, you had been on, how long were you on those, the pain pills they prescribed you?
The whole time from, the February, then when we found out what exactly was going on and the amount of pain that I was in till, late July, early August.
Wow. Okay. And then was it Darvocets the whole time?
No, towards the end, they did write me a script. I think I did have some Oxycontin. That was the big height of the, Oxycontin push, for that. So yeah, I had some of them. I don't recall like it being over and over again like the Darvocets were.
Okay. By this point, did you, sorry, Brent showed me the Epcot Center thing too. So the Gamma Knife. Thank you, Brent.
Yeah.
God, I gotta fire him. Okay. So, you get this surgery done. Did the pain pills continue?
No, because it was like you're cured thing, right? So they said after this surgery, obviously whatever I had left in painkillers is what I had, and the surgery was took some time. It wasn't instant. I had to go back later on in life and check up, have MRIs to make sure it was there. But the report from Pittsburgh back to my doctor was, it's a success. Where that was the fix.
Okay, and so hey, no more need for pain pills. Let's stop them now.
Yeah, for a kid that's 16 years old that has been doing painkillers for 4 or 5 months. It's a hard stop.
Did you have withdrawal symptoms?
Yeah, I did. With everything that was going on and all the craziness that my life had become, I was dependent on that to kind of slow me down, relax me, everything like that. So when you're done, there's no, there's nothing there to take anymore.
So yeah. And in some sense and this probably wasn't the intended purpose, but did those painkillers taking those every day help with the anxiety of everything that you were facing?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, pain medicine and anything that has that hydrocodone or anything in it, that the feeling that you get whenever you take it, 1 or 2 of them, and kind of relax and you get that warm feeling inside. And yeah, that's definitely helps with any type of anxiety of what was processing through my life at that point.
And then it's suddenly gone.
Yeah, just hard stop.
So how did you deal with that?
So being a teenager, not having any responsibility for anything at this point, no baseball, no wrestling, no nothing. I mean, you resort to what's available as a high school teenager, and that would be, marijuana. That was the easiest thing to get and go to. Okay.
And so did you find that helped with the anxiety? Did it help with other things as well?
Well, not having any headaches or anything anymore. Like, I still have the occasional headache, but I would never have those migraines that I did. Mm-hmm. But the feeling of like worthlessness at this point kind of grew on me. Like, I knew coming up in the fall, I wasn't going to be able to wrestle or anything. So I didn't have to pass any drug tests. I didn't have to do good at school. My grades didn't have to be good. It didn't matter at that point.
And the worthlessness, if I may ask, it's because you don't have, is it because you had a lot of time on your hands? Is it because you weren't able to do the things that you loved? Is it a combination of both? Is there something else?
Yeah. I mean, there's, when you have heavily been into anything, it could be anything too. It doesn't have to be sports. It could be gaming. It could be, whatever. whenever that would be taken away from you, and that was a big part of your life, you don't have drive and you don't have, it's like you found meaning in everything else. Like I found meaning in my grades to keep them good or something like that, or keep my friends around. And, just at that point, there was no meaning for anything. I was going through the process just because I had to go through the process.
Gotcha. So, I mean, on top of everything else you've gone through, this trauma of the diagnosis, of the pain pills, of the procedure, well, albeit short, still pretty traumatizing procedure, the fact that a DeWalt screw gun was used, all of these things, it sounds like you were depressed. Maybe not clinically depressed, but it was a period where you were just really down. Yeah, I mean, I guess depression as a teenager and depression as an adult or kind of feel like two different things because I've gone through, two different phases of it. But yeah, it's definitely down. It's a downer. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to use my time wisely because I was always had to go to this, and this, and now I don't. Yeah. Wow. So what do you think that there was anything specific that kind of pulled you out of this really difficult time? So, yeah. So like I said, July surgery into the fall, I start school, just go through the process, go through going to school every day. And then finally, April of the following year, 2001, I met my wife. Oh, wow. Okay. So April of 2001, I met my wife. So that gave me, I guess, purpose, if you want to call it that. I had somebody not that I didn't have friends, but I had somebody to occupy my time with. Like I'll go, like I said, she lived in another town over, so I'd go out there and hang out with her, and they had a farm, and that would occupy my time. And I would have things to do that weren't sports, but other things to go enjoy doing. Right. And now, wait, so she lived in a different town, which I assume she didn't go to the same school as you. How did you meet her? That's the story's so funny, and my wife likes telling it too because it's a strange story. There's a restaurant in our town, and me and my best friend at the time had pulled in, and her friend were sitting beside us in the parking lot, and we got out and they had honked and we waved and we walked in, and then they had walked in after us to meet a group of friends there. It was just me and my best friend, Matt. And, that we come back out before they did. There was a note on our vehicle about, a pager number or it had to have been a pager number. It was just 2001. So, I had paged them. I think they called, and, her friend was the one that left the note, but her friend was too scared to talk to me. So I ended up talking to my wife for a little bit, and we ended up setting up, a movie date or something, maybe that day or the next day or something. And, it's pretty much been, it's been history from that day. That is a great story. That is a great story. And you guys are still together? Yes. We've been together since April of 01. So it's been 22 years. We've been married since 07. So it's been 15 years. 16 years we've been married. Oh man, congratulations. And that is a great story. And I think you had mentioned earlier, you guys have children? Yes, we have 2 daughters. Okay. Congratulations. You also had like a bad wreck on a 4-wheeler? Yeah. That's it's just another, strange point in my life. We'd been laid off from work on a voluntary layoff. They said, if you guys want to go out for X amount of weeks, collect unemployment, and then when you guys come back, we'll have your work. So we went out. I went out on an unemployment, and we were just riding around. We normally ride around 4-wheelers and stuff like that. It was me and my wife's cousin and his friend.
and we were out, and we were actually crossing a piece of property on a road that, we really shouldn't have been on the road. So we were going down, trying to quickly move down this road so we don't get pulled over or whatever. And I had lost my hat, and I reached for my hat. And when I reached, I pulled the handlebar of the four-wheeler. Next thing you know, it's kind of on top of me, and we're sliding down the road. Hit a parked car, which if I'd have been flipped 180 degrees on the other side, I would have hit the parked car, but the four-wheeler hit the parked car, threw me out into the road. I slid some more. I was up. I didn't get knocked out or anything, but I got up straight away, and I'm bleeding from every part of my body at this point from road rash.
Jesus, how old were you at this time?
23.
All right, so you didn't get knocked out, but you get up and you're just how bad was the damage?
So I was bleeding pretty profusely from my forehead because I had slid a bit on my forehead. All my arms had second degree burns on them from the asphalt. Both my legs, my hip, and then I tore a piece of my knee, probably about the size of a golf ball. It was completely missing. Not
Goodness.
to be too
no, you're
too gross
fine.
about it.
You're fine.
But yeah, so when I finally sat down, the lady where I wrecked her house, she comes running out. She's a nurse. She's like telling me, sit down, sit down, sit down. Well, when I sit down, I can my knee is like, it's incredible. And I don't know whatever happened to, said piece of my knee, but then I'm sitting there and I can feel it, I'm just bleeding everywhere from this, road rash. And, my cousin calls, AMED. They come and pick me up, and off to the hospital I go.
Was there any DeWalt drill when you got to the hospital?
No, but that is the worst pain I've ever felt in my life was that incident in particular, because they had to scrub all of the shale out of my road rash with a wire brush.
God damn, man. I was just making all sorts of faces and poses like I was listening to a Tom Waits song. That was, oh God, how long did that take?
I don't remember. I was in there for a couple hours. I know that they had pumped me with morphine, and they said, we're going to scrub all your stuff now. And I said, okay. And then they started. I'm like, you're going to have to give me more morphine. And he goes, we physically cannot give you any more morphine. Like that's all we're allowed to give you. And they gave me a little bit of, I forget what it is, but it's the stuff that Michael Jackson was taking.
Oh, propofol or something like that. Yes.
Something like that.
I think I got that right. I could be wrong.
But they gave me just this little tiny bit of that. And then they scrubbed every arm, leg, knee, everything to get the shell out.
Were either of your daughters born at this point?
No. This was, what was this? 07, 08, maybe. No, it was 09. Yeah, it was 09. And, no, they weren't, neither one were born yet.
Okay. How long did that recovery take?
Oh, about 3 months. Jeez. I had some skin grafts done on my knee. Actually, it wasn't skin grafts. There was, I had a plastic surgeon put it back together. They had to grind a piece of my kneecap so it all fit together. Then they're like 17 or 18, actual physical staples held it all in, but then I couldn't bend my knee. So I laid on the couch for 3 months.
Wow. That's okay. My God, man. Okay. That sounds horrible all the way around. And I'm glad it sounds like, do you have obviously you came out of it, any lasting issues from that?
No, I have a lot of scars.
Okay.
My arms are better. That you couldn't really tell now compared to what they were, but I have some really deep scars on my shoulders and my knees and one on my forehead that my hair kind of covers up, but.
Gotcha. Well, it sounds like your forehead's not nearly as big as mine. Okay. You must have a pain tolerance. Man, yeah. that's a hard to comprehend. So you you recover after 3 months. You and your wife have a couple daughters, and then you had an issue with your younger daughter getting sick. Is that right?
Yeah. So, well, when my youngest daughter was born, everything was fine. Like it was normal pregnancy. I mean, she was great when born, but when we ended up finding out she was about a year old, maybe a little over a year old, she had abnormally large adenoids.
And
so
those are like behind the nose or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So she would snore. Oh my goodness. She still snores, but, this doctor we went to, said, hey, you should have this procedure. All kids, most kids, whatever, have this procedure where they have their adenoids out, kind of like your tonsils, one of those removable organs.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were okay, and we set up all the appointment for it and did her, ear, nose, and throat appointments and everything seemed fine. And the day of the surgery, obviously, anxiety is through the roof. Obviously, you're going to watch your daughter go have a surgery, and you're not there to be by her side. She's going to go with somebody else. And, we were assured that everything would be okay. And so we go in to have this procedure done at the surgery center. She goes back. We're waiting. It's me and my wife and my mother. And we're waiting and nothing. We don't hear anything. And finally somebody comes out and says, hey, everything went well. She's going to recovery. So, okay, so we can't go see her yet.
That's a good sign.
Yeah. That was all good. So we're waiting in recovery. Well, my wife's aunt she worked at the surgery center. She comes out and gets us, and we go rushed back, and the doctor said, hey, we were having complications getting her breathing. There's this, and this going on, and we can't. And the emotion that I felt when he told me that was pretty much every emotion that a human could have at one time.
It's almost, again, I cannot imagine how difficult that would have been. It's almost as if it was like an emotional angiogram, like everything went black, you're seeing stars. I'm sitting here listening, and you said, oh, we're having trouble getting her breathing. That has got to be maybe the worst thing a parent can hear. One of the worst things. It's up there. So what happened next?
So we're sitting there and we get our scrubs on. We run into this room where she is just intubated. She's got tubes down her throat, and she's kind of awake, kind of not awake. She's laying there. We don't know what's going on. It's panic. It's panic throughout. I mean, when the doctors and the nurses and everybody else is panicking, it's kind of like the whole flight attendant thing. Like you don't panic until the flight attendant panics. It was like that. Mm-hmm. So we're standing there. We're with our daughter, and we don't know the don't know. And next thing we know, they said that they had already called Pittsburgh Children's Hospital, and they were flying their helicopter in to pick her up.
And is this the same children's hospital where you had your the gamma knife procedure?
Yeah, it's kind of the same. I think it's a different building now.
Same institution, maybe.
What's that?
Same institution, though.
Yeah, same Pittsburgh. It's UPMC now. So it's the same company, I guess.
Okay. So here comes a helicopter, and what happens when the helicopter gets there?
So the helicopter pad was up at the hospital. It wasn't down at the surgery center. So the guys get out of the. I like to think in my mind that they repelled out of the helicopter just the way that they came in the room and took over the situation. Like I always say, it was like SEAL Team 6. They come in, they push everybody out of the way. One's on a walkie-talkie calling in medication. One's talking to the pilot. One's doing this and doing that. And like they get her, and they're asking us questions. Who's going with her? Who's going with? Only one of you can go with her. They're hooking her up to all these monitors, and we decided that my wife would go with her. And within 5 minutes, they're picked her up in the ambulance, going up to the helipad, and they're gone.
God. It's almost reminiscent of what you were saying earlier when you were having procedures done to you as a kid. Your mom went with you, and your dad had to stay and take care of your brother. So, what is that? Is that just a powerless feeling to just watch your wife and very gravely emergency ill daughter just being taken from you?
Yeah, I mean, it was. I stood there. After they left, I stood there and I was kind of like, well, what do I do? What do I do in this moment? I know I have to get out there, but my brain wouldn't function to make me walk out to the vehicle, get in, put the keys in. I stopped, and I just like everything that had happened in the last, half an hour felt like an hour plus. And now I'm just standing here emotionless, just wondering what the hell just went on.
Yeah. So you obviously have another daughter, so you have to go make sure she's taken care of. And then you said you had to get there. I assume you mean Pittsburgh.
Yeah, because it's a little over 2 hour drive from where I am to Pittsburgh, but it's only like 40 minutes in the helicopter. So I had to get somebody already had my daughter. I think my dad might have had my oldest daughter at the time, and at the house, and we had to make sure that she had somewhere to go. Because who knows how long we were going to be over there. I had to get stuff. I had to get clothes. I had to get everything. So I drove home with my mom to our house, got some stuff, and me and my mom drove to Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And I don't know, an hour and 40 minutes or something like that.
Yeah. You made some record time, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So what happened once you got there?
So when they got there, they got right off. I guess they got into a room. I mean, it's an instant thing. So they go into a room. They don't get weighted or ER or anything like that. They brought my wife a whole basket full of stuff like slippers and a robe and, all this stuff to, make sure that she was taken care of also, that because they like a gift basket of sorts. I get over there. They're already in the room. I go in. She's, my daughter's kind of like, restrained to the bed. Like, she's only a little over a year. So understandably, like, she could wake up and start pulling at stuff. So she's restrained, in a medically induced coma at this point, breathing tube in. There's a drain in her stomach that's draining everything out of her stomach. So nothing, happens on that end. And she's just laying there. Like, I know that she's here. She's in this bed. We're at like the best hospital we can be at, but it's still, it's so, you always think about the emotion that you're going to have, but there is no emotion to be had at this point except, understanding what's going on.
Yeah. Obviously I've never experienced it, but I feel like that is a pretty spot on way to describe that really powerless feeling. The only thing that you have power over, are you basically saying the only thing you have power over is having the information of what is happening? And being there. Yeah. Just like you take in the information, obviously everybody wants to know, you pass that information along, but what in an actual emotion, I couldn't tell you what the actual emotion I was having. Obviously I was upset, but I was upset and mad and sad and everything all at once. Yeah. Yeah. You said she was in a medically induced coma. Did she wake up? Like what happened next?
We got there. We had talked to the doctor and the head nurse when I got there. And what was really fascinating about that whole thing is when we got there and we were talking to them, and they go, we see this all the time. So
see
to
what
have
all the time.
So this condition where like your voice box is what happened. Her voice box is closed shut because it had fluid on her voice box whenever they were doing the surgery. So that particular incident to young children, apparently is what they see happen in surgeries or something along those lines.
Why is there any quote unquote comfort to know that, oh, this is some, let me ask you it a different way. Were you made aware that this was a risk?
At the initial surgery?
Yes, sir.
No, we had no idea that this something like we were kind of told that this is the beginning, the original surgery was just a run of the mill adenoids removal, and that'd be that.
Yeah. Right. Well, she got home, and how long until she was kind of back to normal?
Yeah, she was a little feisty. I had even ran the story past my wife again since we had spoken to make sure that I was getting all my facts straight with this story. And so my wife reminded me that since she was on all of this medication, while she was medically induced coma and everything, she had withdrawal from whatever they had her on, and she wasn't herself for a little bit.
Oh, wow. Like a withdrawal from the drug, a drug withdrawal?
Yeah. She was so small. So,
Yeah.
I mean, she was only a couple, 25 pounds maybe at the most. And she had some kind of withdrawal from whatever she had gone through or medication that they had her on, that she just wasn't her cheery, free spirited, little girl that, we had known for a little bit, but she did come back around. It wasn't too long, but my wife did remind me about that she was a little bit grumpy for a little bit, but yeah.
Oh, I mean, that just prolongs. I don't know. It would seem to me that would prolong the experience. And then it's like, okay, well, she's not, as far as in any sort of immediate danger of, not breathing. But now it's like, oh God, is she going to be different now? So that's got to be a whole other nightmare.
I thought about that too. Just her demeanor and everything like that. And I was like, man, I hope nothing long-term has happened from this particular incident. And I don't really have seen anything. She's grown up. She's 10 now. We've grown up, seen her do things, seen how free-willed she still is. And, she's such a unique child. From like normal kids, she's really understanding of people, and she's, like I said, she's free spirited. She could care less what really goes on. She's one in a million for sure.
Man, I think that's so great to hear, and I think it's you've shared a lot with us today, Jay. That's for sure. And as we're wrapping up after all these difficult times that you went through, is there anything final that you would like to impart to everybody who's listening? Anything that you would want to share? Anything like that?
I mean, I have been through. There's stuff that we didn't even touch on in my vast craziness of my life. But I've always had the mindset of you keep going, you try to stay as positive. I've always been the jokester. I've always tried to stay positive. I've always tried to cheer people up, because I know what that emotion is. I've been through situations, so I like to console people whenever they have issues, because I've gone through that gamut of different emotions in my entire life. But I mean, just to try to stay strong and stay positive for the most part. I mean, you can deal with your emotions at one point, but to continue to, harp on them and look back on them, that's not healthy in any way. I have found out, like I said, I've done this. I've looked back at stuff and thought, what did I do wrong and what could I have done different? Well, at this point, you can't do anything different. You have to just you have to accept what the hand, I guess, that you're dealt, and move forward and stay as positive as you can. That's kind of the way that I try to go through life, I guess.
Well, I think that's pretty goddamn wise. And I want to say, I love that you referred to yourself the same way that you did your uncle, as a jokester. And humor to me, or as my dad would say it, humor. And I always go, Dad, there's an H on that word. He goes, just shut up. Humor is so important. And so I always, to bring levity to very difficult situations when the time is right is just, laughter is the best medicine. I mean, that's pretty much true in a lot of respects. Laughter or a DeWalt drill, one of the two. Yeah. So, and yes, and last thing is, so Project Skeptic, your podcast, where can people find that? Tell us a little, just like give us a little summary of that, and then where they can find it.
Yeah, so over here on Project Skeptic, we try to find out, who's a believer and who's a skeptic. We bring forth topics all over, different topics, UFOs and exorcisms and conspiracies and all kinds of topics, and see who believes and who doesn't. So that was the main goal of going forward in the show. And you can find us anywhere you can find podcasts, Apple and Spotify. And we have a website, projectskeptic.com. That has the links to everything, all the socials, all the Facebooks and Instagrams and Twitch and stuff, those type of things are on the website, projectskeptic.com. You can even listen to the show there. There's links to listen to the show. And that's the best way to find me.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely have links to that in the show notes for anybody who is interested. And I would really highly recommend to check it out. Go check out projectskeptic.com. Jay, thank you so much for your time today and sharing your story and being so generous with your time. To everybody else out there, I'll end with the same thing. Buy stock in DeWalt. No, I'm just kidding. Just remember that no matter the situation, there's always room for kindness and grace. And I try to remind myself of that, especially when I'm being especially hard on myself, which means when I'm awake and most of the time when I'm dreaming. So there's always room for kindness and grace. And we appreciate you listening. Again, if you'd like to be a guest, please email us at sadtimesK as in king, C as in cat. So sadtimeskc@gmail.com. And we'll see you next time on Sad Times.
You've been listening to a Fourth Hand Joint.